Can you feel that rumble on the Ford Field? Does the heartbeat of Detroit quicken with the echoes of a storm no one saw coming? What if the very fabric of our beloved Lions is on the verge of unraveling right in the middle of a quiet off-season, when every fan hoped for at least a breath of calm before the tempest? Hold on tight, because whispers have started to slip through the cracks of our usual Lions chatter. Insiders, usually guarded and cautious, are murmuring about a seismic shift, a trade so shocking that it could rewrite the playbook on what we thought was possible for this proud team. They say shockwaves are coursing through the front office, rattling the foundations of Brad Holmes' long game like the tremors right before Detroit winter storm. The talk is quiet but electric, creeping through locker rooms, sprinkling unease and anticipation like a powder keg ready to ignite. If this rumor proves true, the NFC North will never be the same again. The player? None other than Sam Laporta. Yes, our young tight end, a favorite son since he burst onto the scene in 2023, with plays that electrified a fan base starving for hope. But here's the kicker. Miami Dolphins just shook their roster with a blockbuster trade, moving tight end Jonnu Smith to Pittsburgh, leaving an opening for a reliable tight end that the Lions might now be tempted to fill with Laporta in a bold, unexpected move. Detroit is being told to seriously consider trading Laporta, while his value is still high enough to fetch a meaningful haul. This isn't just about numbers on the stat sheet, though Laporta's production took a dip this past season, catching 26 fewer passes, hauling in 163 fewer yards, and falling short of the touchdowns we all wanted. No, this is about identity, legacy, and the gut-wrenching decisions that make football more than a game. It makes it a saga of sacrifice and salvation. Detroit fans remember all too well the heartbreak of near misses and grueling rebuilds. Remember the 57 defense that almost roared back to glory, but ultimately fell short? Or the pain of playoff heartbreaks that has woven itself into the city's very soul? Trading away a player like Laporta, who quickly became a symbol of hope, a rising star who embraced Detroit's blue-collar grit, feels like standing at a crossroads. Do we hold on to the familiar, the beloved? Or do we take the gamble, trusting Holmes' vision to flip the script? Because the Dolphins aren't just offering a trade, they're dangling a chance at a fresh start. Sources suggest a potential deal where the Lions would secure a second-round pick and maybe even snag a tight end to fill the space Laporta leaves behind, potentially reshaping our offense in ways fans can only speculate about. But what if this move cracks the locker room chemistry that's been building? Laporta may have seen a dip in stats, but his connection with the team and with us fans is something numbers don't easily capture. Could his departure ignite tensions? Or could it spark the fiercest playoff run Detroit has tasted since Barry Sanders danced through defenses like they were ghosts from another era? Imagine a retooled offense, a fresh wave of talent mixing with gritty veterans, a Lions squad hungry to silence cynics and finally put Detroit back on the NFL map. Yet the uncertainty gnaws. What if the emotional blow of losing Laporta fractures the locker room or alienates the fan base still holding on to a fragile hope? What if this gamble backfires, plunging us into a deeper cycle of what could have been? The stakes couldn't be higher. And just when you think you've wrapped your mind around it, the domino effect looms, because if Holmes pulls this trigger, if Detroit sends Laporta packing, it might open the floodgates for the wildest, most unpredictable Lions offseason in recent memory. Trade talks, draft day surprises, and roster shakeups that could finally vindicate this rebuild or break the hearts of a blue-collar city once and for all. But the real question still sits heavy in the air. Is Detroit ready to say goodbye to a young hero who promised a new dawn? Or is this the sacrifice we need to turn years of despair into a future of glory? The countdown to September is ticking, and the roar of the Lions faithful is about to collide with a question that only time and brave leadership will answer. Brace yourselves. Lions Nation, hoist your blue and silver high and let your voice echo like thunder across the Great Lakes. Because what's coming isn't just a trade rumor, it's a reckoning, a pivot point in the saga of Detroit football that could fracture the very core of what we thought this team was becoming. Word is, tensions behind the scenes are already rising like pressure in a boiler room. And inside the Lions locker room, the mood has shifted from off-season calm to a kind of uneasy silence, where glances say more than words and everyone is waiting for someone to say what nobody wants to admit, that something sacred might be torn apart. Coaches are whispering in hushed tones, position groups are sticking tighter than usual, and even the vets are watching the front office like hawks. Because if Laporta's name is really on the table, what's to stop the dominoes from tumbling straight through this roster's fragile chemistry? You think NFC North rivals aren't circling like sharks? You think the Vikings wouldn't love to watch Detroit flinch, or the Bears wouldn't pounce the second a core piece is traded away? Even Green Bay, rebuilding as they may be, can smell blood in the water when a franchise questions its identity. And let's not pretend this city hasn't been here before. We know the scars. We carry them like tattoos. From the bottomless pit of that 0-16 season that branded us with a kind of football PTSD, to the wasted brilliance of Calvin Johnson, forced to walk away while his prime was still burning hot, to the gut-wrenching playoff collapses that played out like Greek tragedy. On national television, each moment has built a fan base that bleeds deeper than most. And now, in the shadow of last year's near glory, with the taste of real postseason fire still on our tongues, the idea of shipping off a young symbol of hope feels like déjà vu, like watching the same horror flick play out with a shinier cast. But there's another fear stirring too. What if this is more than just Laporta? What if Holmes is gearing up for a full-scale recalibration, a hidden strategy that involves shaking not just the depth chart, but the leadership tree? What if a big-name veteran, someone we thought was safe, is next? Could this be about creating cap space for a blockbuster move we're not ready for? A game-changing QB? A defensive monster to finally haunt opposing backfields like Enda Mukongsi once did in his prime? Is there a plan brewing to package Laporta and another rising star to leap in the top 5 draft territory and grab the next generational talent? The sheer magnitude of what's possibly unfolding has every beat reporter scrambling and every fan scouring social media like it's the NFL's black market for truths they won't say on ESPN. Because if Holmes truly believes this team is just 1 or 2 high-impact players away from not just contending but dominating, then bold doesn't even begin to describe what we might be witnessing. It's not just about numbers, cap hits, or scheme fit. It's about guts. It's about flipping the script on a franchise that's lived too long in the margins. But damn it, it's also about loyalty, about the bond between player and city. And every step we take down this uncertain path makes us wonder, will we rise like the phoenix we've always believed we could be, or crumble again into the ash heap of almost and maybes? So tell me, Detroit, can we weather the storm if our own heroes are sacrificed for the future? Or are we on the edge of a revolution that will finally bring the roar back to Motown?